girls' bathroom downstairs in the basement of the fraternity,
As you do.
and I had to listen. We had to have two pledges in there at all times,
Mm-hmm.
and like we go to class 24 hours a day, so we were on rotating shifts in there. The end always had to be playing.
Okay, this is a different subject for another podcast about why people would do that to themselves. But the end story in college involved me as the morning DJ of the college radio station and Pam Sherry, and all the lights were off. It's a great story.
That's
One of my favorites.
that is for another time.
It is for another time because it is time for All the Best Words. Hello, everybody, and welcome to All the Best Words. My name is Matt Murphy, and I say all the best words.
My name's Cameron Smith. I write all the best words.
I think this is all the best words.
I know words. I have the best words.
This is All the Best Words with Matt Murphy and Cameron Smith.
Does it create like a camaraderie? Is that the whole idea?
Yes, doing push-ups with a live Maine lobster on your back will make you closer fraternal.
Was this at William and Mary?
Washington and
I mean, Washington. I always get those mixed
the
up.
Generals.
I constantly accuse you of going to William and Mary. And you
So,
went to
so
what?
I actually was looking at playing football there. I went for a visit. The sheer number of cigarette butts that were there was just shocking.
I'm old enough that when I was going to school, public university, they still had coffee cans outside of the classrooms, inside the buildings. So you could put your cigarettes out. And if the professor smoked, you could smoke inside the classroom.
Really?
I had a couple of professors. Very odd. Anyway, it's time for All the Best Words. You guys know the drill by now. I bring a word. Cameron brings a word. We discuss those words. We're in and out about 12 minutes of your life. Please like and subscribe us. Give us the old thumbs up if you don't mind. It will help our professional security.
Yeah, that would be great. What's
By the
your word?
way, speaking of, hold on.
Okay, I get
We
excited.
need to do this. We missed last week, and we need to explain why we missed last week.
Sure.
We want to be punctual, and we want to be efficient, and we want to be on time Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But you had the pneumonia.
I did. It was not a good thing for saying any words, and almost not a good thing for being alive.
First time?
I've never had it that bad. I've had pneumonia like when I was a kid or something like that, but this was it was a little scary and kind of gross simultaneously.
Well, I'm glad you're better.
I'm back.
And your shirt is very loud.
Yes, this is my youngest.
Are those lemons?
They are lemons. My youngest looked at this shirt and said, "Dad, they have it in your size and they have it in mine." So we have matching shirts that are, as my mom would say, a bit much.
My dogs do that to me all the time.
It happens.
My word, Cameron, is 100.
100.
100. Over the past week, we have just passed the 100th day of the Trump administration. And human beings, being what they are, feel the necessity to assign arbitrary stuff to these types of designations. Oh, it's been 100 days. Let's look back at his first 100 days. What has he accomplished? What has he not accomplished? It was horribly annoying to me. But at the same time, it forced the media to acknowledge some of the accomplishments of the Trump administration. And I would suggest that one of the biggest accomplishments is the major piece of his campaign, and that was border security and stopping the flood of illegal immigration. Obviously the Democrats are trying to fight him at every turn. Obviously there have been missteps along the way with regard to ensuring that due process is met with every single one of these individuals. But I think it's been a wildly successful effort on the part of Tom Homan, wildly successful on the part of Kristi Noem, and frankly, fairly easy over the first 100 days in as much as because of the nature of what the Biden administration did, there were a lot of people that were obviously not supposed to be in the country, right? We're going to get to a point where we're going to have a hard discussion about some people who have been here who aren't really violating the law outside of their entry into the United States of America, who've been here for perhaps 15 or 20 years, who've taken up roots, who have otherwise been law-abiding residents. We're going to have much more difficult discussions about those people. But over the first 100 days, the Trump administration has managed to deport, I think their numbers, Department of Homeland Security numbers are 142,000 people, plus The border crossings, illegal crossings, have gone from the tens of thousands to the hundreds. I think it's a wildly successful aspect of the Trump administration. Oddly, an aspect of his first 100 that has not been as successful, and his people would argue it's because of timing, and it takes a little longer to unpack that suitcase, would be the economy and the economic issues. And a lot of that has to do with tariffs, and I think we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But 100 is my word because we give this artificial designation that it's important to look back. I play the game. I'm not going to grade the guy, but I think on balance, I think he has done well to get to some of those campaign promises that he worked over, which is what led him to a victory in November.
I would add to that the DOGE stuff. I think it's really important to reset the baseline of the federal payroll. That you can put it another nice way, but to start off saying, hey, look, anybody that wants out, go ahead. We'll give you a severance package. See ya. Anybody that's left, okay, we're doing RIFs now. We told you this was coming. We're just going to start cutting. We're going to start looking at these baselines, looking at our statutory authority, seeing what we can rein in, and we're just going to press reset. The failure of 100 days, 75 days, whatever, isn't actually his failure. It's Congress's failure because on immigration, he reset the tone. He said under the Biden administration, it was, you can come here and we're going to apprehend you and we're going to let you go. And so you can just go about your business. You can't do that under this administration. We are going to stop you. We are going to apprehend you. If you commit crimes, we're going to find you and deport you. And,
Sure.
and frankly, deport you in a manner that will not be like fun. You're not going to like this, so you might as well leave. And he changed that climate. With the DOGE stuff, he said, this is how these cuts are going to happen. The problem is there's been no follow-on from Congress. Matt, guess how many legislative vehicles to date since January have been enacted into law in the United States? 5.
Ooh.
5.
Undercut it.
Remember we started the Laken Riley Act, and then it was
Right.
like off a cliff.
I challenged one of our Tennessee congressmen just this past week, David Kustoff, and I have the unfortunate task of having to yell at some of the better guys. I won't call them
Were
the
you
good
being
guys.
mean again?
Hmm?
Were you being mean again?
I wasn't being mean. I just said, when is Congress going to actually do something? And he started prattling off a lot of things that they wanted to do. I said, what are your major accomplishments? What has Congress
Amen.
done in the first 100 days? And David Kustoff said Laken Riley Act. And after that, he started talking about a lot of things that the House had passed. I said, hold on a second. Have these things gone to the president's desk? Well, no, we can't get the Senate to do it. I'm asking you congressional accomplishments. And the only thing he could come up with was the continuing resolution. That was his number 2. I said, the continuing resolution. And he said, oh, yeah, we froze spending at 2024 levels. And I said, you mean the 2024 levels that were overspending by $2 trillion? Those 2024 levels? Those same 2024 levels? And he wanted to defend it. And I said, this is not a defense because you know as well as I do, you cannot see real accomplishment through DOGE. DOGE can identify it, DOGE can magnify it, and DOGE can do certain things amongst the executive branch to, you don't rehire people when they time out. You don't rehire people if they resign. But ultimately, the Congress has to do something about it before we'll see anything move on the DOGE front. But I agree with you. Your word, Mr. Smith?
So this is related. These are the accomplishments of the first 100 days, but my word is uncertainty. I think it's very important for the Trump administration to go with what it campaigned on. He was clear about his interest in tariffs. He was clear about immigration. He was clear about cuts to the federal government and create stability to say, this is just how we're going to go. So maybe your kids don't have cheap toys from China and maybe the toys are a little more expensive, but this is for the good of the country. We're going to reset this. We're going to move in a better direction. We're going to have better trade deals. We're going to rethink our revenue policy. We're going to generate more revenue from trade and less from your income taxes. So you're going to be better off in the long run. This is what we believe. This is what we're going with. And that will create stability in the economy. Republicans have crowed about this for years by saying Democrats keep with their environmental policies and their radical carbon stuff. They are creating instability in the economy. They're creating uncertainty. Nobody can build anything because they don't know the price of energy. They don't know what the regulatory burden will be. this is the big sort of cardinal sin of the political left. And now we're kind of being a little bit mealy-mouthed about some of these policies. It's, well, tariffs, but tariffs to get us better deals. So if that's the case, ultimately that means you're not using it as a revenue source. So maybe you're not offsetting revenue to offset income tax. Well, just be clear. Just say, this is what we want to do. We campaigned on it. We're going to do it. We can argue about it and disagree about it, but it creates stability, and that's important.
Now, yeah, I understand what you mean, because given the day, Donald Trump will tell you these are ways that we can get to the table and get better deals. That's on today. Tomorrow, he will say, I think if we do this right, we don't have to have an income tax at all.
Right.
Like, okay, wait, which is it? Are you doing this to change the way that the United States of America generates revenue, as we did before we had an income tax, the 16th Amendment, I think it was? Or are you doing this as a way to do what you say you want to do and negotiate better deals? Now, the case could be made, if you want to say that he's playing 3D chess, that he's making those public announcements because he wants these countries that we're dealing with to believe that we'll really do this if they don't come to the negotiating table. I understand that too, but that's going to upset the markets and create that uncertainty that you're talking about. And at least temporarily, it's going to put a disruption in the economy. My fear is that we don't have a master plan to get all of this settled and see some definitive movement by, I don't know, midterm elections.
Right. And I think that's the economic concerns are real, but I've talked about this. I wouldn't bet against the American economy. I just wouldn't. Our private sector, our ability to make things here, and particularly if Trump's saying, actually, there's an economic advantage to making things here, the market will internalize a lot of this stuff. Even when he started floating this stuff, the market said, we're going to go buy everything now. So we're going to stockpile so we have a little cushion here so we can kind of figure this out. We're really resourceful economically. And so I'm not really as concerned about the long-term economic prospects of these policies, more concerned of they are going to have political ramifications. If we, for example, that supply stockpile that's sitting there right now goes away, and there's not things on the shelves, the political left is going to beat us to death with that. You're going to see Republicans trying to explain, well, it's going to come back. Don't worry, we're going to cut a deal. When you can't buy socks because those supplies just aren't there, there will be no mercy. There will be no charitable media saying, well, just give it a moment. We're still working through some deals. That will not happen. It will be just a tax.
Well, at the same time, you have seen movement from companies that have announced, and, announcements are one thing, putting a spade in the ground and actually building a facility is another thing. But I mean, I think Apple announced a $500 million plan or $1 billion. I don't know. I mean, I think there are billions of dollars of announcements of investment in American infrastructure and American business opportunity. So I think that's a good thing. And I think that can help along the way in terms of stabilizing the natural uncertainty that's going on right now. I mean, the big piece is China. And if we get everything, I mean, if he maintains a little bit of consistency with everybody else, it's like, hey, we're at the table. The suggestion has been made through Treasury, through Commerce, that we've got, a lot of these folks. I mean, they said, I think they said 200, and I don't know how we would have 200 countries at the table negotiating trade deals, but whatever. So, I mean, let's say that it's most, if not all of them, but China. If the deal is to get China in a corner, I think that can work. It only works so far until you have to figure out where you're going to go with it. And I appreciate the word, because I can deal with the uncertainty to a certain degree until it starts dramatically affecting the American economy. And I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah, and if it does, that's where we're going to have to pay the political price. And so it's easier to create the certainty now, saying, hey, this is going to sting a little bit. I got you. We're managing this, and see how it goes. But uncertainty is the word.
So speaking of price, what did that set you back? That looks like an $18, $20 shirt there.
This is probably on sale, if I'm honest.
I'm betting Indonesia, maybe Bangladesh. We'll find out and tell you at a future time where Cameron's shirt came from. In the meantime, I'm Matt Murphy, and I say all the best words.
I'm Cameron Smith. I write all the best words.
And this has been All the Best Words.